A pointed moment unfolds as Raphael Warnock asks Fed Chair nominee Kevin Warsh a simple but loaded question: what grade would you give today's economy?
Thank you, Brother Chair. Mr. Warsh, congratulations on your nomination, and I appreciated our time together in my office a few weeks ago. If confirmed, you will serve as chair of one of the most powerful economic institutions in the world. Decisions you make would move markets, affect Americans' retirement savings and ability to buy homes. It would influence the global economy. You currently serve as a lecturer at Stanford University. If Professor Warsh were to assign a letter grade to the American economy today for the average working family, what grade would you assign?
Senator, it was good to meet with you in your office. In modern academic institutions, they give everybody A's, so it's not a fair comparison. Especially at elite universities, I know everyone gets perfect grades.
Well, what grade would you give the economy?
Well, if I gave a student anything other than an A, the dean would summon me to his office because I would have hurt his self-image.
Well, the Americans that I talk to, particularly in the state of Georgia, who haven't had the benefit of attending some of these elite institutions, are trying to make their lives work. They're sitting around their kitchen tables trying to figure out how to put their kids through school. And regardless of how the markets are doing, consumer confidence is at a record low. So that's their grade on the economy. Working families are struggling, and things are getting worse. The inflation rate has remained elevated above the Fed's 2% target rate throughout President Trump's term, despite his promise to lower inflation. The president's war in Iran has spiked energy prices by 11%. And Americans are paying on average nearly $4 a gallon for gas because of the war. We've lost nearly 90,000 manufacturing jobs since President Trump took office. He promised us a manufacturing boom. We've lost 90,000 manufacturing jobs. And Americans already dealing with high prices paid $1,000 more per household in 2025 as a direct result of President Trump's illegal tariffs, which he remains committed to in spite of the Supreme Court decision. He does even better than this practice of these institutions. When asked what grade he would give the economy, he said an A, and then he thought about it and said, no, actually A+++. And as I thought about his answer, I was wondering who was he talking about? Who is it an A+ for? Certainly not the ordinary working class Georgians that I'm fighting for every single day. Maybe the people closest to him. But I'm hard pressed to think that folks across the state of Georgia who are looking at their grocery bill, looking at their gas bill, looking at the $1,000 that they've had to pay would give the economy an A++. What are your thoughts?
Senator, thank you. If the Fed were to execute on a series of policy reforms, then I believe the economy can be stronger. I believe inflation can be lower, and I believe real take-home pay can be higher. I think the Fed is not blameless for the divergence you described between those that have financial assets and those that don't. Had the balance sheet not been brought from the $800 billion level when I showed up at the Fed in 2006 to an order of magnitude higher, if the Fed had kept a smaller balance sheet, the way the senator I just talked about a few moments ago, I think interest rates could be lower, inflation could be better, and the economy could be stronger.
Yeah, you discussed your theory of the case with me in that regard. But I think you would agree that the recognition, I think you implicit in your testimony is the recognition that this is not a plus economy. In your economy, in your testimony, you note the importance of price stability and correctly note that inflation means people lose purchasing power, particularly harming low-income folks. But I also noticed your testimony did not really discuss the Fed's other mandate, and that's to maximize employment. Inflation is critically important, but if you don't have a job, you're in trouble. Do you view the Fed's mandate for maximizing employment as equally important to its price stability mandate? And are you concerned about weak job growth numbers?
Before the nominee answers the question, the senator from the elite university, Morehouse, is out of time. So I appreciate the question, but we will have the answer submitted for the record.
I know you wanted to attend Morehouse College. I'm sorry.
Everybody wants to attend Morehouse, by the way, but I'm a Charleston Southern Buck.
I appreciate
Very happy about that. He couldn't get into Charleston Southern, but it's good you got in somewhere. This is good.
If you can't get into Morehouse, go to Stanford.
Everybody's got jokes up here, so we'll go Senator Brett.
The exchange begins with a straightforward framing, but it quickly becomes clear that Raphael Warnock is aiming for more than just a letter grade. By focusing on the average working family, he shifts the conversation away from abstract economic indicators and toward lived experience. It's a strategic move, because while markets and GDP figures may suggest strength, everyday costs like groceries, gas, and housing often tell a different story for many Americans. Kevin Warsh initially sidesteps the question with humor about academic grading, but the deflection itself becomes part of the moment. Warnock presses forward, grounding his argument in concerns about inflation, job losses, and declining consumer confidence. The contrast between a technical, policy-focused response and a people-centered critique highlights a recurring tension in economic debates. Who is the economy really working for? Warnock's argument builds around a key theme: economic disconnect. He points to rising costs and financial strain as evidence that the benefits of economic growth are not being evenly distributed. By invoking kitchen table conversations and everyday struggles, he reframes the grade of the economy as something measured not by experts, but by ordinary families trying to make ends meet. It's a powerful rhetorical shift that resonates beyond the hearing room. In response, Warsh outlines a broader policy perspective, emphasizing the role of the Federal Reserve in shaping long-term economic outcomes. He points to structural decisions, like the size of the Fed's balance sheet and interest rate policy, as factors influencing inflation and growth. His argument suggests that while current conditions may be imperfect, there is room for improvement through policy reform. This introduces a forward-looking dimension to the discussion, focusing on what could be done rather than just what is. Ultimately, the exchange captures a fundamental debate about economic measurement and responsibility. Warnock is focused on present-day realities and accountability, while Warsh leans into structural explanations and future possibilities. The unresolved question, what grade the economy truly deserves, remains open, shaped by perspective. For some, it's about macroeconomic stability; for others, it's about whether daily life feels sustainable. And in that gap lies the heart of the conversation: